Okay, welcome to another episode of the Woke Salaryman podcast. Sorry about this mess lah. Like it's partly a bit of a little set dressing because I think it's quite cool that we have all these plushies here. But also, we genuinely, our intern Josh was using this as a place to sort the plushies, so it was just here, and I didn't want to disrupt his sorting process because it's like work from home Wednesdays and he's not here.
Yeah, it's also gonna like kind of like mess up our whole processes in the company.
Or like doing this plushie thing lah.
Yeah.
So we bought 1,000 like to sell.
Yep.
And we did 100 at first. Then those sold out like freaking fast, and I was like so amazed that people want these things. And then we make 1,000, and 1,000 is still right now I think actually not gonna be enough. So yeah, it's a problem for us.
Yeah, but please do be understanding because like we are not like a logistics company.
We're not a merchandising
Yeah,
company.
but I mean, we are definitely trying our best to get all this like shipped out in like a way that will not cause any delays, and actually we can be accountable for each single plushie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but car some slack lah, cause some people have been messaging us like, where is it?
Yeah.
But I understand also, cause you
buy already ma.
You buy already ma, correct? Yeah, but also, it's tough lah. I mean, the other struggles of like e-commerce business,
Yeah.
which we are not.
Or just your business branching out into any other thing to try for a second. Because we're just trying this out, and then it's just very stressful. We'll do a wide shot of the office, then you can see how messy our office is right now.
What I dislike is like sometimes people like assume we make a lot of money out of it, you know. Actually, we don't make.
Okay, we make some on these, but it's not like a lot. Honestly, like but it would be more economically efficient for us to just make money out of comics than this. But this is really for us to try to
say thank you to like our audience, right?
Or to give them a chance to also hold like something that is our IP that they might have grown attached to in their hands lah.
Yes.
Yeah. So please bear with us.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry for any possible delays.
Sorry for the message.
Yes.
Okay,
let's maybe talk about today's.
So I think today we wanted to talk about immigration, immigrants, and also the idea of like foreign labor / foreign talent coming to Singapore and also I think other countries, but we're talking about it from a Singapore context. And I think we are quite suitable to talk about it because you are a born and bred Singaporean. I am a immigrant lah, because if you define immigrant as somebody from foreign country who comes to another country to stay permanently, I fill those requirements. So we're gonna talk about that because like I think it happens everywhere. Like everywhere, people who are locals are concerned about immigrants for a variety of reasons. And for Singapore, there's a specific set of reasons that we'll go into. But I think it's an interesting topic to think about. Potentially dicey, so I hope we don't get cancelled.
Yes.
But
I will correct you whenever there's.
Okay, then we cut it out.
Yes.
Right.
That's just, we will cut it out. Haha.
So it's not that we won't say these things; is that we would remove it every day.
Yes.
I just ask you first, okay? As a born and bred true blue Singaporean, some people might define.
Oh my god, that's such a
boomer term.
That's such a boomer term.
Okay, I'm a bit boomer also lah. It's okay, I embrace it. Okay, like what do you think personally about immigrants?
I think immigration is very important for Singapore to retain its competitiveness. Sometimes they improve, I mean, they make the scene here more vibrant. They make like the workforce more vibrant and more capable, right? Because sometimes, let's say you need like on short notice a certain amount of people to fill this certain industry. You can't always train people to do a very complex tasks within like a short period of time. And then that's where immigration comes in. Especially during a time where Singapore actually has a declining population because of like aging population and low birth rates.
Low fertility rates.
Yeah.
So I looked at it. Birth rate is actually somewhat constant, right? But fertility rates is like birth rates. But what fertility rates takes into account is the age of the mothers they're producing. So if it skews older, for example, right, the rate of fertility is not as good because it means that the mothers, even though they have kids, they will die sooner. It sounds very brutal, but when you think about it from a statistical point of view, you have to be like that.
Yeah.
So actually, birth rates have been quite stable, but it's the fertility rates that is skewing older.
Okay. Yeah. So the narrative out there is that Singapore punches above its weight, right?
In terms of economically,
economically for such a small country, right? Yeah, this
this
actually takes like a lot of effort and a lot of like resources to do and a lot of talent to do. Right, and I think a lot of that talent actually comes from overseas, and I think we need to acknowledge their contributions to Singapore lah.
Yeah.
Right, but at the same time, I will also be cautious against sometimes we see anti-immigration sentiments online, and we dismiss the people as like, "Wallah, them close-minded. Why you think this way?" You know what I mean?
What are some of the things that they
What
might
era
say?
is it? What?
Like these anti-foreigners.
I think they'll say a classic line, from the early 2010s. It's like
brought to you by
Job-
Boomer Classics.
it's
2010.
jobs for FT, NS for Sinki. Yeah, right. And I think
Can you explain that? What is NS for Sinkies?
yeah, so jobs for FT means foreign talent. So
Yes.
all the good jobs go to foreign talents.
Mm-hmm.
And Singaporeans,
Yeah.
like myself,
Yeah.
we are start doing 2 years of NS.
So NS is national service,
Yes.
and Sinkies is Singaporeans, right?
Yeah. It's what it means is that the best opportunities in the job market goes to foreigners, and then Singaporeans, we'll start doing NS for 2 years. I mean the guys lah, right? And because of that, we have reduced opportunities, and after that, inequality has happened between the people, the good jobs, people having the good jobs, and Singaporeans serving NS.
I see.
Yeah.
So that's a very... I've heard that also.
Yeah,
It's
so-
a very common one.
So I think while it's very easy to dismiss these sentiments as being xenophobic, right? I think we should also acknowledge that there are very real reasons why people feel this way, and you individually as the viewer might not feel it, but I can assure you there are people feeling like they have been
Confirm have.
displaced by foreigners.
Yeah.
Maybe because we work in different industries, or maybe you were in a different industry, so you might not feel it. So enough people feel it for it to become like a hot button issue, and I feel like it's very important that we address it, or even just acknowledge it. I don't think there's like an easy solution to it, but I just feel we should
Acknowledge it meaning we understand why you might feel this way, and
Yeah.
we know that you feel this way, but the solution is not as easy as just let's just cancel
ban
all of
foreigners.
it,
Yeah.
and we just don't look at it. Right?
Exactly. Because a lot of Singapore's success is also because it's such an open economy. I think Singaporeans are some of the people who have benefited the most from globalisation. All this requires on attracting like the best talent. Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like it's not that Singaporeans are no good. We already live in a very developed country.
Yeah.
People are very used to high wages.
Yeah.
And we want to continue earning these high wages. And we have to attract talented people from all around the world
Yeah.
who might be better than us in certain things. And I think like that's where the tension is.
It's not just the idea of replacing or bringing like foreign talent that is better than you and having them stay here. I think also sometimes what Singapore, or is it EDB, I don't know the specifics, tries to do is to attract talents to kickstart the industry here so that the best around the world can come here and train then the next generation of Singaporean talents in that sector. Like for example, the animation sector. Singapore's animation sector is not very mature, and there are other countries, for example, like Japan, America certainly, that has great long legacies in terms of animation. So of course, you can try to start it from the ground up here, and what you might come up with is a very uniquely Singaporean style of doing it, but you would be experimenting for a long time. There'll be a lot of failure also. So, for example, LucasArts is here, I think, because of a lot of economic
Rebates,
advantages, rebates or whatever it is. I don't know specifics.
Incentives.
And then, but I mean, Lucas is best in the world in terms of like, among the best in the world in terms of special effects.
Yeah.
So then they would train the next generation of Singaporeans, or at least that's how it's supposed to work. So it's not just come to replace, it's come to train. Then you can have your own, how to say, your own hub or your own industry in that field. Yeah.
But I think what people are unhappy about, that a lot, what I see online, I don't know whether for sure because I haven't been in a big MNC with a lot of, I have but like not in like, let's say animation per se. But what I get is that many people are complaining that some of these companies, they never really train the next generation of people. They are, Singaporeans are relegated to grunt jobs. So they don't learn enough, and then after a few years, after taking all the incentives, the companies leaving Singapore, like basically back where it started, and giving all this
after having 5 to 10 years of basically
of
good
fun,
taxes,
good times. Then okay, time to go. So we are like a one night stand in a way.
In a way,
So I'm not saying this is true, but that's a lot of sentiment online.
But as a foreigner myself, like I always just try to not say too much because I feel like I have not much to not that I don't have much to add, but like people are not soliciting my opinions on this. So what happens a lot is I just see these things and people saying all these things, and some of them say it to my face. I've had people that I and actually you know also, I won't say who lah, but just openly lamenting about, to me lah, because they think I Singaporean also, because I'm quite assimilated culturally, you know.
Yep.
Just openly talking to me like, wow, all these foreigners are, because I used to be an NTU, then like they'll say, wow, all these foreigners are like already too much, like our campus like China like that, or like Malaysia like that, and I'm Malaysian, so I just then I just left it lah. But in my head I was like, wow, like say until like that, like I understand where this is coming from, and I acknowledge, and I think actually Singaporeans do have the right to talk about it and complain about it if it's legit, right? But what is necessary is an understanding of the macro landscape, to understand why this is happening, and also why Singapore needs this to happen based on a population and an aging population, and then your lowering fertility rates things, and that actually your country does need foreigners to stay relevant and to keep up with population growth.
Yeah, I noticed I realized I've been using this term called foreign talent, which might not be fair to use, because I think
I'm FT technically, right?
I mean, I just realized like FT puts a divide into, you know, like foreign talent people will say is expats. Then foreign labor they will say like is the not so glamorous jobs.
Is it like your I don't know, landscaping security guards?
No, I think it's something like the
construction workers?
guy working at Toast Box.
Right.
Like I mean, a lot of Malaysians work in that job.
They are usually Malaysian, right?
Yeah.
When I speak to them in Chinese, their eyes were like, oh, you might see then.
Yeah.
I mean, the common one for Malaysian is haircut lah.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The barber usually is Malaysian in,
So I think
Singapore one.
Foreign workers, I'm just going to say everyone, foreign workers, okay? I think foreign workers in Singapore, I think they help at all spectrums of, you know,
I see.
Of
The
economic activity.
Yeah.
I mean, first we have like the expats, you know, come in, work, or like the jobs that we wish we could do.
Like your head of sales and
work in tech, you know, like chief of
international
chief of something.
marketing.
Yes,
you know,
something like that.
Thing, right?
Yep. I think there's one group.
Yeah.
Then there are the laborers who build our HDBs, do the jobs that Singaporeans don't want to do.
Yeah.
Then obviously there's a middle tier that competes with the median Singaporean worker.
Yeah.
So I think like across the spectrum there are a whole bunch of different people, and I think like there's unhappiness at every level because of different reasons. I think at the top level people feel like, wow, these people come here, earn so much, take the best jobs away from us. Okay, so for that one, I feel that we always lament that, you know, we always say that we want like the best talent to come to Singapore, right? But some people are unhappy when the best talent come to Singapore and earn more than them.
Right.
And I think that's something we have to acknowledge. If you
are the best talent, you would want to be compensated fairly, right?
Yeah.
So we can argue about what is fair, and then we have to go into industry specifics. But oftentimes, I think a lot of people also, they just look at the number and go, oh, long 5 digits, then go and, you know, do this, do that, you know.
Exactly.
And a lot of times, I also think friction comes because of like cultural
differences. Right. I think Singaporeans were quite like a quiet bunch, generally, I would say. Speaking as a Singaporean myself.
A bit shy, less confrontational.
Yeah. I mean, then some other cultures, they can be more. They'll call you out. They'll say, I mean, they'll poke jokes at you, but they might not mean it in a bad way, but it can be offensive.
It can be very jarring.
Yeah. So, for example, I'll give you an example. Like, recently I went mountain biking. Then I was resting at the pavilion, just sitting down. Then after a while, I think 5 foreigners who were also mountain bikers, they just rode up to the pavilion, and without saying a word to me, they just sat on the seat in itself. And then they just started like talking very loudly. Right. So I think like this, and I mean I was annoyed lah.
But I mean technically there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Let me explain. It made me seem like the bad guy here.
No. I will help you round it out later. I had my intentions to.
No, so because like I know it's a cultural differences. I mean
but it's annoying. I also don't like that.
I mean, but I do feel annoyed because I'm used to a culture where I sit in this space just by myself.
This is my bubble now.
Yeah, then you go to somewhere else,
Yeah.
which is like readily available.
Yeah.
I thought like they will go over there.
Yeah.
So I also understand like the friction that happens, and I feel like many times, especially at the higher level of economic activity, because they don't make enough effort to integrate with the local culture here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then they are bound to offend people.
Yeah.
And also, there's the thinking like, I think obviously when you earn more money, it's very easy for them to think like, oh, I'm superior, I don't need to interact with, I don't need to
assimilate because I'm actually contributing to your country economically.
Yeah, so I think like that is one area of unhappiness that Singaporeans feel lah.
I agree with what you said, and I think in that same situation I'll be damn annoyed also. It's a bit like, to me, the analogy I will use, or a comparative one, which is bonkers to me that people do that, is when you're on the bus, the top of the double decker one, then it's just seats everywhere.
Yeah.
Then if it's just me sitting down on a single seat, you come and sit beside me when there's other places. That one, like, people done that to me, and I just like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Like, do you want something from me? Can I help you? I almost feel like sometimes I just, excuse me, then I just go and sit and
yeah. Or you peeing in the toilet, then got a lot of urinals.
Yeah, then you come and pee next to me. Like, what do you want, bro? Like, can I help you? You want to look at my wheelie, is it? Like, what the hell? Why do you do that? So I can understand, like you say, like, especially when that's readily available, But then intentionally, they're not even doing it. But I also would say that it takes time for assimilation to happen culturally. But I also would say, like, even though I've been here since I was 7, and I think I'm quite assimilated in some terms of culture. In fact, when I go back to Malaysia, they will say that I'm like a Singaporean. And then when I'm in Singapore, people tend to say that I'm a bit more like a Malaysian. So I feel like I'm in the middle of everything.
Sure, yeah.
So culturally, even though I've been here since I grew up here essentially, like from 7 onwards, right? It still takes time to assimilate lah. So especially when somebody first gen come over, it's really hard. And if you understand that immigration is going to be a part of your, not just say your policy, but your country's culture.
Your lifestyle, yeah. The lifestyle here, there will be.
We have to understand, and I bet there were these things going on throughout history. Like, for example, when, say, Rome conquered the known world, right? Then they had other people from other civilizations come over to stay in Rome. They would also go like, hey, what the hell? Like, why these barbarians come to our bathhouse? Then they never follow the rules. I think Japan, for example, like, to say that Singaporeans are like sensitive or like very concerned about their public bubble or space, I think Japanese is even more so. Like, when I go there, it feels like a lot of times I'm overstepping boundaries, you know? Like, sometimes I just talk on the train, then remember I cannot talk on the train. Then you just notice there's deadly silence, then you look around, everybody's looking at you. And they might feel like that sometimes, you know? Like, so tourists is one thing, but when you're staying here also, I think it's also on you to make an effort to assimilate. But also give people time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's like the top.
The top,
yeah,
right.
Top.
Sorry to have taken such a big deep. I realized you were in the middle of your point about top, middle, bottom. Then I just went on a whole.
Oh no, it's fine.
So I tend to do that, and I'm trying to get better at not doing that.
It's fine. It's,
sorry. Yeah, so that was the top.
Yeah. So that's the, not to say top morally, just the top level of economically. There's no moral thing here.
I think what you're trying to say is like the
earning power, the high earners,
changes the narrative and the way that we feel about it, right? Okay, so that's the top.
Yeah. So no way, I'm not done with the high earners yet. So I think there's also this argument online that say like, Singaporeans, we have so many of us are graduates, right? Do we really need to import
university graduates?
Do we need to import so many foreign talent? Is our university students not producing enough talent? So I think like that's an argument usually thrown out online. So how I feel about the argument is that just because you graduate from university doesn't mean you are good enough to do a job. I think increasingly like that is the case for many jobs. What also matters is like your network, your perspective, how you carry yourself, right? And I think it's very hard for companies to instantly take Singaporean graduates and turn them into these like magical high earners very fast. I think developing talent takes time. So foreign talent, I mean the high earners the expats I feel it's like quite controversial to say expats and non-expats, but because people will say,
you're
Yeah.
classifying them in terms of their.
Yeah, okay, but I'll just use it
earning
for the
line.
sake of simplicity. If
Yeah.
not, like this conversation will take 900 years. I disclaim every 5 minutes. Yeah, so yeah, so sorry about that, but I'm just going to use it. Yeah, so it takes a while to train the Singaporeans to be like expert level. And I think as a short-term solution, that's why companies import talent.
Right.
Import
Because I need the business
now,
solution
right?
now.
You think
now,
I want to
now,
wait
yeah.
for a Singaporean?
Wait 10 years for you to get global perspective and
Yeah.
enough experience.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
But I mean, my opinion is that if that happens, okay, fine. But then you have to train like I mentioned earlier, like the local talent to be as good as you.
Yeah.
And I think like that is a fair trade-off. But if it doesn't happen, then I feel like Singaporeans are getting quite screwed.
Screwed in terms of what?
In terms of like
The opportunities to get.
if we don't get
Yeah.
like trained to be as good as the expats that we import,
Yeah.
I feel like if there's no knowledge transfer, then it's not good for Singapore long
That's a
term.
good term, knowledge transfer.
Yeah.
That transfer is to happen, and I feel like you might want to make it blatantly obvious that look, we are giving you these rebates or whatever it is to incentivize you to come here as a foreign company, and what we need from you is knowledge transfer or at least training of
So
local
knowledge
Singaporeans.
transfer doesn't need to be the main thing because ultimately you're still here to make money.
Yeah,
But we expect some form of knowledge transfer.
right. Yeah, it still has to be profitable.
Yeah, to build
of
our
course.
industries up.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. But you see, sometimes that's a very difficult thing to quantify and to prove, accounting or auditing wise. Like, hey, the knowledge transfer didn't happen. I'm gonna take away your 5% or whatever it is, right? So that's a tough one. And I also think like on the topic of like say, getting a Singaporean graduate to be as good on an international level, right? A lot of times, what is needed, right, is actually global perspective, and this is something I feel is not said about enough. But I also feel like sometimes and I have no proof of this except for anecdotal or quantitative or qualitative observation, right? That culturally Singaporeans are not as inclined to want to travel for work and like, for example, to sacrifice like 5 to 10 years traveling to other countries to basically offset or move your existing family. Like if you have wife and kids or you have a husband and kids, it's much, much harder for you to say be posted to Denmark for 5 years, to go to China for 10 years. And that stuff, I feel, is huge in terms of like hiring somebody, especially for international roles, like international marketing, to really understand on an experiential level, having worked closely with other cultures, right, how different they can be. That sensitivity and that tact that is needed to approach a new region,
Ability
right,
to stand up for yourself, right?
is huge. And I feel like Singaporeans a lot of times don't have that until they have a few solid years. But it's a big ask because I think government also want Singaporeans to settle down, to have kids while they're early. Like we talk about fertility rates, to skew that fertility rate a bit earlier, so in your 20s and 30s you start having children. So it's a very difficult dilemma, I feel, for...
And also you have to understand, right, it's not that... It could be the fact that Singaporeans are not alone in this. It could just be like people who go overseas to work. They are just inclined to be more assertive, develop other perspective, because you are not dealing with like just Americans, not dealing with just Chinese people, not dealing with just like Filipino people. You are dealing with a selection of people who are bold enough to leave their country.
Yes.
So you already like take like the most like outspoken.
You're skimming off the top of the most, like you say, the most adventurous, outspoken, willing to...
I won't say they are like the super best in talent, but they are the...
In terms of temperament, in terms of like the attitude, right? And I feel like Singapore as a whole, just culturally, it shifts towards the other end.
Exactly.
So it's harder to skim because there's less already.
So imagine in Singapore, we have 10% of people who more are inclined to be expats. But the remaining 90% of us
very hard
have to go compete with 10% of the world's expats who come here to get... So I think it's really, really challenging.
That's true.
So I think that is like... Sorry, that's the unhappiness at the top level.
Okay, so we round off the top level.
Round top level. Maybe we do a break.
Okay. Now you want to talk about the middle?
I think
what it feels like in the middle. I feel like I'm an example of a middle. Am I an expat? Or a middle immigrant, like I'm sort of socio.
I think you are. The issue I have with the word expat is that it.
What's the issue with expat? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to offend anyone. I just
it's often very linked to
the high income earner, is it?
High income earner,
the condo dwellers,
usually from a Western country or developed country. So I do not like the term. I only use it because like for sake of easy understanding.
I see.
So I would consider you you an
Foreign
expat.
worker.
Yeah, I mean just foreign worker lah. But I think
worker is okay.
yeah, okay. I mean you can say yeah you're foreign
So
worker.
I'm
It's
a
fine.
middle range foreign worker, I
Yeah.
feel, and I don't feel like, but I blend very well, so it's hard for me to say also, like the kind of things that I face. But I will say like the foreign has sometimes, no, the middle part has sometimes a lot more like mobility, because I feel like most of the arguments are on the top and on the bottom. So in the middle, it's easier to blend. It comes down to more like little things at the workplace and things. But it's also easy for me because I'm Malaysian. And Malaysians are very culturally similar to Singaporeans. So I don't feel much of the conversation on that middle spectrum. But how do you see it?
Well, the way I see it is like actually middle spectrum does not get as much like attention from media.
Yeah.
But I do feel like technically that is what Singaporeans should be also concerned about. Like because that is
You gotta watch out for me.
because that's the median.
I'm creeping in.
I mean, this is like the median level of salary, right?
Yeah?
So obviously the competition will be fiercest there.
I was gonna make that point also.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Like I think like for example when I say mobility I mean like for example the middle has good opportunities to move up, and I feel like a lot of cases, right, if I'm able to get in at the middle, right, the hunger of an immigrant, especially when you're coming from a less developed country, right, can be very strikingly different from the hunger you get in a Singaporean
I think not just
worker
Singapore,
who's in the
any
middle.
developed
Any
country.
developed country,
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, LKY said, like the first two generations of Singaporeans were extremely hungry.
Yeah, because they were immigrants.
Yeah, and then after that, like, it declined as time gone on. We can put a link in the.
But it's like that, I mean, like,
Yeah, it is like
it's
that.
very natural that
Yeah.
with prosperity and wealth, certain things follow. So, for example, fertility rates is one thing, and aging population. It is so often correlated, that
Yeah.
with rising prosperity and wealth, your birth rates will go down, your aging population will go up.
Yeah.
So hunger, I also think, cannot be measured like that. If Viv, you wanna, Viv is just crawling at the back because she don't understand. Just step in the camera, it's okay. You just tell us, then you just go in front. Okay. It's so distracting because I'm talking and then there's a woman crawling on the floor underneath.
She has crawled
Yeah.
successfully.
She has crawled successfully, yeah. So hunger cannot be measured
Yeah.
unless you do survey, but it's also like so qualitative one,
Yeah.
like so we can't measure total hunger index, but I do feel anecdotally I have observed that this is usually almost always
So
the case.
I personally, when I was working in advertising, I felt like outclassed by many of the foreigners. Outclassed. Like
In
better,
terms
they were
of
better than me.
Or the better than you in terms of what, like performance at work?
I think performance at work.
Because of that hunger.
I think in the beginning I was really unhappy
Yeah.
with them because I feel like, a foreigner come take my job. Then I think like
But you also had a job alongside them, right? They're not
I did,
taking your job.
I did, but they were my seniors at work lah. So
Oh.
after some time I realized like actually they present really well. They can present their ideas really really well. They work really hard, and then like
Or they spoil market lah.
Yeah, they spoil market
It's like
lah.
we are on the same role, but why are you overtime like 3 extra hours more?
exactly.
Then you whack like very hard and always make the presentation so much better.
Yeah, and
just because you spend more time on it.
And some more they a lot of Singaporeans also say like, you all come here, don't have kids to do like don't have any kids to support,
Yeah.
don't need to do NS.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah, I didn't do NS so
yeah.
I
Then you like basically kick the shit out of us at the workplace lah.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the tension is as well.
Yeah.
But I think how the average Singaporean, as a starting point to deal with it, I think maybe can be try to be more like assertive, because that's maybe not every Singaporean, but actually that's how I overcame my my difficulty, not difficulty, is that right?
The feeling that
yeah,
your
the feeling.
colleagues were basically out hustling you.
Yeah, exactly.
Spoiling market for you.
Yeah,
What was it then? You spoil market back, is it?
I think for
you
me,
try to keep up.
yeah, I mean of course I try to keep up,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes for Singaporeans you will feel like, hey, technically I'm more proficient than them.
Yeah.
These people only go at talking and presenting stuff.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I
I
realized
mean,
like,
that's your personal experience.
Yeah.
lah. Right.
but I think I heard a lot of people also say that also lah.
Right.
Yeah, but I also feel that when I learned to present better,
Yeah.
and I learned like the rules of like the game in the
Yeah.
corporate setting,
Yeah.
then I actually was given like better opportunities.
I see.
Yeah, because often there's a tendency to think like, oh, I'm so good at, let's say, writing something. But
Yeah.
then maybe when it comes to presenting ideas, I'm damn lousy.
Yeah.
But then after you realize like, okay, so what it takes to succeed is that I need to write well, I actually need to present well, and presenting actually
It's part of the game.
part of the game and can be more important than actually writing well.
Yeah, yeah.
I think once you realize
Marketing
that,
lah,
yeah, learn how to market yourself,
yeah.
then I think that's when like the difference comes in. And also that also help to build your confidence as well. So I think like there are many things you can do, or maybe there are many things like you cannot do, but I think that is one thing I would definitely work on if you're facing a situation at work like that. Be more assertive, learn how to present better, learn how to market yourself better.
But I also think like so you're talking about the marketing side of things, but I also think like we haven't really addressed the idea that somebody from another country that comes here might be more hungry in terms of the ambition and the drive. So what they might do is, if we are tasked with the same thing, right, I would work on it from 9 to 5, but then they might work on it from 9 to 9, just because they have that hunger, just because it's in them, just because it's just what drives them. So is that wrong, you think?
I don't think it's wrong. I think it's what I think it's what is natural to do. I think
Then Singaporeans should do that too.
okay, I think that's not up for me to decide, right? But I think if you want to compete with them, then that is what you will want to do.
Yeah, I feel like that's
If you don't want to compete with them, then fine.
so okay. I'm not in any position to say this, but it's unsolicited advice or unsolicited observation, lah,
Yeah,
right? From
yeah.
a foreigner, I feel like what a lot of young Singaporeans, like, oh, I'm gonna sound so fucking boomer saying, what a lot of young Singaporeans don't have, right, is that international perspective also, in terms of you don't understand how much other people from other countries who are in a less privileged position. I feel like I can say that for sure, that if you're born in Singapore, you are privileged. Nothing wrong with that. It is not unearned. It is just the luck of the draw sometimes, and also the fact that Singapore has been well run, right?
It's been earned by our parents and grandparents' generation.
Yeah. So it is not unearned, but it is privileged nonetheless. So you have to really understand, especially regionally, and especially nowadays with remote work becoming such a present thing, that your competition is not local anymore. It is regional and global. You have to understand how fucking hungry other people are, and these are your real competition. Your competition is not your buddy who's also a Singaporean sitting beside you in the lecture theatre. It's all these other people that are also from other countries, and you have to keep up with that. The best thing for young Singaporeans to think about, right, is to put yourself or treat yourself like you are a global company. I like what you always say. Like, you always talk about how the individual needs to consider themselves a company. But I will go further and think about it in terms of global company. So if I'm a global company competing on business lines about delivering a good product or service, and I feel competition from other companies around the world or regionally, what I would do is to analyze it on a competitive level and think about what I need, lah. And I say global company because, like, the idea of protectionism, I think, is still important, and we can talk a bit about that later. But like, you must think about yourself like first, and not about what is owed to you in terms of protection. So if somebody's outworking you, then you think about how to even up or how to be more competitive in terms of either that same matrix of, say, okay, if he OT 3 hours, I also OT 3 hours, or I OT 4 hours. But there are also a lot of other ways to do it, right? You can compete on a lot of other aspects or a lot of other angles. You could, for example, butter some of the higher ups up, or you can think about playing the corporate game a little bit, or prepare better, do some research on who you're talking to, stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. I think if you use butter, people will have like a negative perception of it. I think it's more of like improve your relationships with, people from other departments. I mean, yeah,
okay,
essentially that's barring
same thing,
yeah.
But I get what you mean.
Because these things do matter. It's not a matter of like, oh, I'm sucking up to someone. But you're
right.
But you have enough value, then you suck up to someone, then it's good. It's only bad if you provide no value, no skills, then you suck up to someone.
Yeah, I used the bad term. I think you're right. What I meant is, like, you be a nice person, go and read the room.
Yeah.
Have a bit of EQ.
Understand interpersonal communication,
exactly,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think what you just described it's actually just this thing called like moving up the value chain. So fun fact, right? I think Singapore's in the 1960s. What are you doing?
I'm checking if the thing recording. I'm a bit scared. Yeah, just ignore me.
Yeah. So Singapore in the 1960s used to make stuff like clothing, textiles, food stuff.
Yeah, you told me about it. amazed because like I always thought, trading port then become banking hub.
Yeah.
I didn't know like.
I mean, there was a big manufacturing.
food thing.
There was a big manufacturing phase, lah.
Yeah.
I think manufacturing is a great example because Singapore has increased like the complexity of things in manufacturers.
Right.
So that's what moving up the value chain is.
Right.
So as you approach like the 80s and 90s, Singapore no longer makes less of this food stuff.
Yeah.
And actually go on to like electronics.
You say your dad
stuff
used
like
to
that.
work in a tea factory, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So like I think you remember you giving an example of like how, for example, if we are competing with tea that is made in what, Vietnam, is it? You know, so they have land, so their margins are going to be better because their manpower cost is different.
Yeah.
So if it was a Singapore company making tea, you might have to change.
Yeah,
the
you have to
way
compete
tea
on like
is
maybe
made, right?
different levels, right? Maybe you cannot compete with the sheer number of tea produced and charge them the same,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because this is the equivalent of you seeing someone, wow, this person worked 8 hours, I will also work 12 hours,
Yeah.
because that is just on one metric.
Right.
But you can compete in terms like branding. Maybe you improve your branding, so many people like love your brand, might want to
Yeah.
pay more for it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about improving logistics, so like the transportation of tea can happen like so fast and efficiently that
Or you do a certain bulk in a certain
Yeah.
way that nobody ever done.
Yeah.
A bit like what Decathlon did with the sports stuff.
exactly. Maybe even
So it can be
creating
cheaper.
something like unique to your tea.
Or laksa flavor Singapore tea.
Yeah,
That kind of
basically
thing,
you just
right?
cannot create the same. You cannot compete solely against like the tea of another developing country because the labor is going to be cheaper. So that is what moving up the value chain is. You have to start to think of how to provide more value. If you want to get this salary that Singaporeans get the pretty decent salary that Singaporeans have been earning for decades before these developing countries started to catch up.
You have to provide the same level of competitive value.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
And you're saying treat yourself as an employee like that also, and you fight on the same level.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't like to talk about. I mean, no, I don't like. I think people can feel like it's very adversarial to think about these things in terms of competition, but I think competition is just present at every level.
I think
it's not
it's-
just country. Within country is company.
Yeah.
Within company is department. Within department is like colleague.
Yeah.
So we have to talk about it.
I think more important is like it is inevitable.
Yeah.
Whether or not you like it or not,
Yeah.
it's going to happen. You have no say. You have no say whether it will happen or not.
Yeah.
So try to make best of the situation, lah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
Then you can move forward. If not, you'll just be a very unhappy person.
Yeah. So I think in summary, like that's the sort of the situation at the middle level, lah, right? Which I think is actually quite a good point to point out. I like when you said that it's like perhaps the one that is the most like sneaky, like you might not detect it, but it does actually play out at that level because it's less present on a statistical and a nationwide kind of level that you see the middle experiencing these things, and it's not so present in the narratives that we read also,
Yeah.
like so now the middle settled.
Yeah.
Maybe we move on to the lower.
Yes.
Like what do you perceive about the situation locally in terms of like how locals view immigrants,
Yeah. So I think
like lower income?
yeah, I think definitely in the past 15 years, I mean, I feel like we have become more progressive in the way we think of. I use foreign workers, like, even though I don't like the term,
Yeah.
but again, it's easily
I
understood.
think it's okay.
Yeah,
Foreign
so
workers.
yeah, we become like a lot more compassionate or empathetic towards foreign workers and their plight, lah.
Yeah.
Right? Whether or not these are construction laborers or they are foreign domestic workers,
Yep.
I think in a whole, we are moving in the right direction. Obviously, there's a lot of things to be done, but I can say the narrative has improved a lot for them.
Yep.
I'm
The
narrative only.
Narrative.
Yeah.
Yep.
So much so that in the past, people might have considered them like wrongfully like as not as good as Singapore or even sub-Singaporean.
Like social level, yes.
Yeah, I
yes,
think
yes.
now it's good that we are seeing them as as what we are, human beings.
Yeah, contributing to the economy,
Yeah.
contributing to the infrastructure, building the nation. What do you think about people who say that we're exploiting them because they earn less?
Yeah.
Right. So I, for example, been to European countries. For example, when I went to Germany, the thing that struck me the most was to find out that construction workers there, road workers there, typically considered lower income here, are paid extremely well.
Same for Australia as well. Yeah.
Same for Australia, yeah. There's a level of, I don't know whether this classifies as protectionism of local jobs on every level that applies, because they don't see them so much as laborers, but
Professional.
skilled tradesmen,
Yeah.
or highly technical tradesmen, things
Yes.
like that. What do you think about like people who say that we're exploiting?
I think we are exploiting them. However, we are also benefiting from exploiting them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because locals don't do these jobs.
Yeah. And I do not say this as an endorsement of exploitation. It's just like an observation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, many of our affordable housing, right? Many of the stuff that we enjoy in Singapore that gets built at not so pricey price,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Sorry, not so pricey price.
Also pricey price.
Comes on. I mean, it's actually a great part of it is because of affordable foreign labor.
Yeah, imagine if Singaporeans build HDB flats.
I think.
How much would it be, and whether would it still be affordable?
Yeah.
It might still be affordable, but it will be done so at a huge cost to
I think it might
our
be.
reserves, maybe
No, I think it might be slower.
slower.
Might not be.
So your BTO need to wait
expensive.
10 years.
I don't know lah. I don't know exactly how
Because
long.
there's
need to wait.
5 teams of pure Singaporean construction workers that are allowed to do BTOs.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I do not know,
Yeah.
but I do think it will be a lot pricier
Yeah.
than it is today.
Yeah.
I actually feel like mixed feelings about it because I do think affordable housing is great, but at the same time, I do see like some of the working conditions that the foreign workers are put through,
Yeah.
and I feel like we can definitely do better, right?
This one I don't know, because honestly I feel like you cannot. The basis for comparison is very important, and you cannot compare with your expectations of living standards. Not saying that it's right, by the way, but
Yeah.
I mean, where I come from, tendency is that it's a lot worse. And I'm not talking about, for example, things like mode of transport and things like that.
Yeah.
The lorry thing, I completely understand. You know, like they need to be protected from
The elements,
the elements.
accidents.
So to put them on the back of a truck,
Yeah.
if it's dangerous, I understand, and I think it's good that people push for that. You know, so narratively, yeah lah. But coming back to the economic side of things also, do you then feel that they should be, for example, paid more?
Well, I say yes, but also with that at the back of my mind,
Who's
right?
paying for it though?
Like we must be ready to pay more for it.
So as the consumer who's buying the flat, it will be a taxation on you, not the government.
I mean, I would think that is a
honestly, government
more
money
sustainable way to
also-
go. Government money comes from
Our taxes.
our taxes,
Yeah,
so
that's the
actually
revenue,
it's,
right?
it's just
It's still
run
us,
around. Yeah,
right?
I think the exact amount that we pay them,
Yeah.
like that has to be worked out by the market. I mean, there will be a point where it's too much, or Singaporeans cannot afford it.
Right.
There'll be a point where, it's too little, I don't want to work for it. I think there will be some sort of sweet spot, and I
Yeah.
think it's not up to us to say it. I think
Yeah.
it depends on like the greater the market at large lah. Sometimes when I think of groups that say like, we should pay them wages that are seen in other Western countries, that might not be sustainable in Singapore because the price might be too high for Singaporeans to afford. Yeah, but I do think they need to be paid at a level that they do not feel exploited. And also, then we need to, just because they agree to come here doesn't mean they deserve like no dignity or compassion from us.
I get your point. You're saying that there's a trade-off, and let the market decide. But if you want to make changes also, the proper way to make change is to understand the trade-offs. And one of the trade-offs that you mentioned, for example, when it comes to building housing, affordable housing, is that the housing might not be as affordable or it might take longer to build.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like the popular narrative is to compare ourselves to like what like standards are in the West for what is not exploitation.
I'm very westernized myself also. Like,
but it ignores the fact that Western society has exploited the rest of the world for a longer time.
yeah, that's true.
Then they can now sit on a high horse.
Yeah, after they have exploited it.
Yeah, and then they say like, hey, y'all don't exploit
you see,
people.
don't do it like this. You see, now we're doing like, but you've been doing this other thing for how many?
Exploiting people for
100
like
years.
hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a really complex issue.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as saying like, some like to use like a Western standard, a developed like Western country standard, and apply it on a nation like Singapore.
Yeah.
This does not mean we don't move forward with improving like conditions.
Yeah.
I'm just saying like blind criticism simply based on a foreign standard isn't always the most valid one.
I think that's fair, and I agree. Yeah. I think one last point that maybe we can talk about is the idea of like protectionism. And do you think, like, for example, that the government owes it to you as a citizen to protect your privileges, or that you should be treated in some way specially or protected from the tumultuous conditions outside of Singapore?
Sure. So I think a lot of people will expect me to say like, no, we should just strive to be our own people whatsoever. But actually my answer is, yes, I do think like the Singapore owes Singaporeans something, not like everything.
Think every nation also. Then you're citizen for what?
Yeah,
What does
yeah,
citizen
yeah.
actually mean,
Because
right?
otherwise, like, how will we function as a country if
You're a port already. If you just pass through and then
Yeah.
everybody is the same, right?
I think if we want to be a country,
Yeah.
there needs to be some sort of separation of, okay, why am I a citizen here versus, let's
That's
say,
the definition of citizen, right?
yeah, a citizen of Australia
Yeah, yeah.
or Canada, which
Yeah.
I might possibly want to migrate to if I have more options.
Yeah, yeah.
If a Singaporean citizen doesn't have any privileges
Yeah.
for being in Singapore,
Yeah.
then what is the point, right? What is potentially arguable is
Yeah.
like, what kind of privileges is realistic for a small country like Singapore with limited resources
Yeah.
to extend to every citizen?
I feel like that one will keep changing one. And also, honestly, I feel like the idea of a nation and what is a nation is something that will keep changing. I hate to get like postgraduate on this kind of thing, but like the idea of a nation last time was boundaries like that you
Yeah.
conquer, and then there's a special set of rules, or
Yeah.
there's a different culture, and then the definition of what makes a citizen also has changed. Like last time it might be more of like born right of this land, or might be more ethnically enforced or
Yeah.
defined. Then now it becomes, for example, if you take more immigrant welcome states like Canada, for example, it becomes people who choose to come here and adopt whatever this identity nationally is. And honestly, I did my master's paper about Singapore national identity and expressing it through animation. So I also have a little bit of a thing that I know about it. And I personally feel like the idea of Singapore national identity and what makes a citizen, right, is constantly changing. And it's very difficult to say for Singapore, because Singapore essentially is an immigrant state in like for less than 100 years, right? Like, or you want to talk about bicentennial years, but essentially like Singapore is a very young nation that is made foundationally from a lot of immigrants coming here, unless you are Orang Laut, like a people of the sea that was here. And there's not many that I know a few, but they are not that populous, you know? So what makes a citizen, you can define it through economic means, you can define it through cultural means. And for Singapore, very hard to say also. Is it kiasunas? Is it the Malayan? Is it the Good Morning Tower? Is it all these symbolic things, or is it
Definitely-
something deeper? Or
definitely
is it
not
the
the
fact
Good
that
Morning
you don't
Tower.
have it? You know, because Malayan is a created one.
Yep.
And I used to be cynical about that. Like, fake one, they make one, they just made a legend. But honestly, it's pretty impressive also that you just make it because you can and you are young. So it's like that, man. You don't have that legacy of like 5,000 years of history, right? And I like that about Singapore sometimes, that actually you just make it. Like, no natural attractions, what do? Or we just make a fountain in Changi Jewel. How about that? I just make it happen.
Through money and a lot
Yeah,
of
through
sacrifices.
money, engineering, like attracting good architects to create something
Yes,
compelling.
and
I make it happen. How about
and foreign labor, affordable
Yeah.
foreign labor.
So
yeah.
if that is your national identity, I think that's okay. But going back to the citizen thing, right? I feel like you're right. We have to define it, right? Otherwise, then what's the point? And we are not at that meta. Maybe next time in the world, right? There's no such thing as citizen. Right? Everybody can just travel freely, but wherever you are in that business or that country, you just follow those rules.
Yeah.
Maybe lah, but we're not there yet. So we still need to define citizens and protect citizens.
Yeah. Because if not, then Singapore will just be a city.
Yeah.
And I think like life in a city is very transactional.
Yeah.
I think that's the challenge Singapore faces. It's both a city and a country, like city-state lah, right?
Yeah.
So I think in most parts of the world, to be a city is to be very like rational, to maximize
Be a business.
economic output,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I think sometimes being a country also means like investing and spending on things that might not always have
absolutely.
like an obvious economic
Definitely.
profit or something,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like stuff like national identity,
Heritage.
history. I think
Yeah.
all these are things that Singapore needs to balance like
Yeah.
really, really hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that is really the challenge of a city-state lah, which
Yeah, so-
few other countries face in the world.
This stuff is very important also. The stories you tell about your nation and the morale and the reason that people come together. It helps you to push through adversity also. And also you can't just live life like leaving the moment something goes wrong. Even though I'm transactional like that, I also think through and have more long term. I might stick something through if I believe that in the future it will pick up. It's not like, oh, the moment is bad, then I just leave.
Yeah.
You know, like that's pretty bad in terms of a relationship also.
Yeah.
Or in terms of a company. It's not like the moment the share drop price, then you leave. You
Yeah.
can't do that, right?
Yeah, I feel like I can't remember what's the topic, but
Also, the development of soft things like national identity, history, heritage, to even if we don't have a very steep culture of 1,000 years right now, to put the roots in place, because that might be meaningful later on, or to in fact help you be more profitable later on.
Yeah.
Not that we should think it's also very important, even though we are capitalistic creatures.
yeah. So I think if you see from like the city viewpoint, right?
Yeah.
City viewpoint, immigration is good,
Yeah.
right? Take all the foreign talent we want in the world.
Yeah.
Take all the high earners.
Yeah.
We use all the cheap labor we can.
Yeah,
I think that is like the brain thinking.
Yep. But
Right?
the heart.
Yeah, the heart. I think it's more like, okay, so many people come into our country. You know,
Yeah.
it's going to change our culture drastically.
Yeah.
Is it right if we pay these people less to build our place?
What does that say about us and our values?
Exactly.
Right?
So I think like Singapore has to really contend with these two different side of things in a way that very, very few countries actually need
That's
to do.
very true.
And I also think like by giving privileges to the citizens, you can also attract like people that you want to attract into the country.
Yep.
Because if not, then you're just like
I get what you mean.
a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Immigrations actually improve like the vitality of a nation
Yeah.
on how innovative it can be.
Yeah.
Because it continuously attracts like the hungriest people.
Yep.
And I think like if Singapore can emulate that, even with like a small fraction of that,
Yeah.
I think like it will be a better place for both current citizens or true blue Singaporeans
Yeah.
or new citizens.
Yeah.
I think ultimately everybody just wants a better life.
Yeah.
And I think like there's a way to work towards it. I think not everyone will win in the same amounts.
Yeah.
But if we can move forward together,
Yeah.
I mean not saying like equally lah.
Yeah.
There will be some people who lag behind, some
Yeah.
people will go ahead of us.
Yeah.
I think that is a reasonable outcome.
Right. I think also to round off the softer part also, I think like it or not, immigrants are part of the thread that makes up the cultural tapestry of Singapore. You cannot have anything talking about Singapore culture, Singapore national identity without interweaving the idea of what immigrants and foreign people as part of Singapore are. And it has been the way since the very foundation of Singapore. So it's actually not a new thing. Actually, the new thing here is that there is the idea of a local person. And this new thing might get cemented more as we move on. And then the counterpoint of like, local versus foreigner might become even stronger. Probably it will.
And so
But we have to remember that it started out with everybody coming here from other places.
the idea of a true blue Singaporean,
It's actually a new thing, I think.
and will evolve.
And will evolve, yeah. But it's important to also define it and protect it.
Yeah. Maybe in the future it'll be like post-independent phase Singapore. 90s Singapore. But everyone will be, in a way, if they stay long enough and if they stay long enough and they choose to settle here, I mean, they will all be true blue Singaporeans.
Yeah. I think so.
Wei Choon will now say some things as an immigrant.
Yeah, so to you as a Singaporean and also to I think Singaporeans in general, I think I'm grateful for the structure that Singapore has created that allows me to create and live the kind of lifestyle I want, and I'm choosing to be here every year. If Singapore government would renew my re-entry permit, I'm very grateful for that also. And also I apologize for my failure to assimilate lifestyle-wise and culturally, and I will promise to try my best, but I would also request that you also give me time and tell me when I'm going wrong, and to tell me what you feel about these things. Then we can have a conversation about it instead of just recording me and then posting it online.
Yes.
So I think that is a fair ask, and I also promise to not turn tail and run at the slightest bit of adversity. But if I see an overall trend where Singapore might not be a place for me, I will of course make a long-term plan and leave. It's the same as I think investing, right? I will buy and hold until the situation change. And I'm buying and holding Singapore for now. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for
Okay, right?
the very touching words, Wei Choon.
Yeah.
I think, thank you for your words. And as a Singaporean, I accept them.
Okay, thank you. Let's have a fist bump of brotherhood between immigrant and true blue Singaporean. Quite literally, we both wearing blue.
Yeah, it was not planned.
Yeah, I'm trying to be blue, but actually I should wear pink, right? Pink IC. No, you pink IC. I'm blue. Oh yeah, because the Singapore IC, if you're a
it's
citizen,
pink,
is pink color.
Sometimes my IC is green.
Oh, army.
Yeah.
Then my IC is actually blue color. My identity card is blue color.
Okay.
So true blue, it should be true pink Singaporean. Oh, how about call it pinkies? Because Sinkies, right?
I think we should end the
Call it
podcast.
pinkies.
We should end the podcast.
Okay,
now.
let's end it. Okay.
we end it.
Thank you for tuning in. We're just
Okay.
rambling now. Bye bye.
See ya.